Hello there guys, Raj here. Hope all of you out there are doing well. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favorite notes or ingredients in fragrances. All of these fragrances that I'm going to mention I have owned in full bottle size, so I know them well. I just don't have them at the moment, but I think a lot of them could make their way back into my collection. So I'm going to mention the notes and then a couple of fragrances that I think are, you know, I'm not saying they're the best ingredient or best fragrance containing that ingredient, but definitely some of my favorites. So let's just get straight into the list, and all of the everything that I'm going to mention is down below in the description. So the first one to talk about is cocoa. Cocoa, you know, I'm talking about dark chocolate here. Well, not dark chocolate, but really like what the powder form before it gets put into a bar of chocolate. I absolutely love that smell, whether it be cocoa nibs or actually ground up powder. I like to add it to my smoothies sometimes as well. And when you open up the bag and you get that sort of warm, slightly dry, sweet, bitter aromas, it's absolutely incredible. So the two fragrances that I've chosen in this list, the first one being Dior Homme Intense. Dior Homme Intense has a wonderful cocoa note which combines really well with the ambrette seed to create a nice sweet accord, and just works so well on my skin. Really good for night out scenarios. Definitely a fragrance I need to add back into my collection. In probably I'll end up getting the larger size. Dior Homme Intense there, the first one. The second choice is from the brand Arquiste, and this one is called Anima Dulcis. Anima Dulcis is really interesting because it contains that cocoa note done so well, but it also contains some chili amongst other ingredients as well, which makes it quite interesting. It adds a nice spicy, tingly feeling to the fragrance. It's quite well done, it's quite unique, and a very sort of niche style fragrance. Definitely worth checking out. Okay, so going on to the next ingredient, which is one of my favorites in perfumery, and that is cardamom. Cardamom for me just works so well in men's fragrances. It's a spice, but it's not one of those that is going to, let's say, it could maybe assault the nose like a black pepper or a chili or maybe a saffron. It's more on the warm, smoother side, like sometimes clove can be that way. Black pepper can actually be that way sometimes, but it just depends how it's done. But with cardamom, I feel that it adds a real unique, it's very difficult to describe, but it's one of those where when you smell it, you know it. And the two fragrances that I've chosen to select, the first one being from Clive Christian, and that is X for Men. X for Men is a fragrance that I've reviewed recently, and it just comes out so classy and so refined in this composition, mixed in with other ingredients. The freshness from the bergamot and the grassiness from the vetiver makes this a really masculine fragrance. I like it a lot. The next fragrance that I'm going to mention is from the brand Roja Parfums, and this one is Enigma. Enigma, also known as Creation E, I'm talking about the Pour Homme version here, and what a classy mix, but also a very, shall we say, slightly daring fragrance, because it does contain that rum absolute note in there. It mixes so well with the spices, and it's such a classy fragrance. I feel really unique in the house's portfolio, and definitely one of my favorites, and for sure I'd like to add it back to my collection. Okay, so going on to note number 3, and that one is Vetiver. Vetiver, again, like cardamom, they actually combine very well, and again, like cardamom, one of the one of the more masculine notes. You know, a lot of people will say you shouldn't or you can't really attach gender with an ingredient, but I disagree. I think you can. And when I say that, I mean that certain ingredients, when done in certain ways or certain, shall we say, volume, or I can't really find the word, concentration, actually, it's concentration. They can smell better on certain genders, in my opinion. Vetiver is one of them. The first one I've chosen is from Tom Ford, and it is Grey Vetiver. Grey Vetiver is a more cleaned up, maybe stripped back, and some will say maybe not a very true reflection of what Vetiver can smell like, but I do like it a lot. It really combines well with the citrus notes. It's lively, it's fresh, it's like a fresh cut green grass kind of accord in there, and works really, really well. It's not too rooty and too earthy like maybe pure Vetiver can be, but is a very good fragrance for the office and when you're wearing a suit. I think great. Tom Ford's Grey Vetiver, great choice. Next up is from the brand Guerlain, and this one is simply called Vetiver. This is a classic. This is possibly a reference vetiver. It combines all the elements of the characteristics of a vetiver that I really like. Smokiness, the grassiness, the earthiness, the spiciness coming from the roots. But it doesn't go overboard. It's not too oily. It's not too overpowering, or yeah, just not too overpowering and too much to take. It's nicely done. A great blend of ingredients in this fragrance. A really good fragrance, definitely worth checking out if you're looking to get into vetivers, or definitely want to own if it's one of your favorite ingredients. Okay, now we're going on to the fourth in this list, and I am kind of cheating somewhat because it's more of a catch-all term, and this one is citruses. So when it comes to citruses, obviously there's so many different types. You've got your limes and you've got your mandarins, oranges, bergamots, and there's a lot in there, but I like them all. And the first one that I've chosen on this list is from the brand Atelier Cologne, who use citrus notes really well. And this one is Cedrat Enivrant. Just a clean fragrance to wear with a linen shirt on holiday. It's very sparkling. It has an amazing lime note in there, bit of bergamot, there's some white musks in there. Quite a straightforward fragrance, doesn't really veer too much of what you'd expect it to smell like. It is a holiday fragrance, and I have worn this a lot whenever I've been abroad in warm weather. It works really, really well. Lasts maybe a little bit more than you would expect, but not a huge performer. Citruses don't always perform that well. This one is definitely worth checking out. Also, another shout out to another one from Atelier, and that is Pomelo Paradis, a pomelo-based or grapefruit-based fragrance. I need to test that one out a little bit more, but I have a feeling when it comes to spring and summer, I might have to add that to my collection. Next up on the list is from the brand, or the house, however you want to say, Xerjoff, and this one is 1861 Renaissance. Hands down, the greatest freshy fragrance out there on the market. I've always said that. Even when I reviewed it, I just knew, and I still maintain that view. Sparkling, really, really refined, very long lasting, lime notes in there, citruses, lemons. Actually, it's more of a lemon-based fragrance. There's mint that really comes through and combines absolutely perfectly with the citrus notes. And it's just so good for spring and summer. One of the best out there for sure. Going on to the final note in this video of 5 notes or ingredients that are my favorites, and this one is vanilla. Vanilla can be done in very different ways. It can be, depending on where it's from, depending on whether it's natural or synthetic, depending on how you treat the vanilla, if it is natural, or how it's developed before going into oil form. It can be very flowery and creamy and almost, it can almost smell like a body lotion in some ways. Other versions, it can be very boozy and quite amber-like, and it is, in fact, vanilla is used as one of the ingredients when making the note of amber. It is such a delicious ingredient in fragrances. The first one that I've chosen, it's an obvious one actually. It's from the brand Guerlain, from their La et la Matière collection, Spiritueuse Double Vanille. What a beauty. More complex than actually you might think. It has that boozy vanilla record. Guerlain's vanilla is just unparalleled. So good. Comes across as sweet and boozy, but also combines really well with some nice woody elements in there. Which takes it away from being a sickly sweet gourmand fragrance. Really classy. It is I would say, a sweet fragrance for adults. Next up, and the final fragrance to mention on this list, a brand or a house that doesn't really get too much exposure, doesn't get spoken about too much, but I really enjoyed this fragrance when I owned it, and this one is from Mona de Orio, and it's simply called Vanille. It's simply called Vanille, but actually there's a lot more going on. It does have that boozy element in there. There's some rum in this fragrance. The fragrance is actually inspired by vanilla and rum and spices being transported on ships across the seas. And I feel that Mona de Orio as a brand, or Mona actually as a perfumer, she's sadly no longer with us, really captured this really well, and was the inspiration was just a really good source of inspiration, and it came across really well executed in this fragrance. It doesn't become too sweet because of the other spicier, boozier elements, but overall, what a composition, a really nice fragrance. And that brings me to the end of this video, guys. So if you have any thoughts on like the notes or the fragrances that I've mentioned, please leave a comment down below, or maybe list your top 5 or your number one ingredient in perfumery. It's always good to hear from you guys. I think you always leave some really interesting comments, and a lot of knowledgeable people out there, so it's good to like share a passion with like-minded people. So guys, if you like what you see, hit the like button and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell as well, so you don't miss out on anytime I post a video. I am being a bit more consistent now with my content. Well, let's see how long that continues, but that's the aim anyway, 3 videos a week. So take care, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.